Thank you everyone for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here in Berlin, Dana, and really a great honor to have your work here in this exhibition. The exhibition, the Butch is here to stay, is part of our series, this lesbian legacies we did this year, Scherben together with Birgit Bosold. So I give a little introduction before Dana has to work, and this series of exhibitions started in May with exhibition of surrealist photography and with modern art and one contemporary artist, Christa Einstein. And the second exhibition in September was then with Fiona McLaughlin and Millie Wilson, looking on the process of archiving and giving a critical view to art history and how it went with some lesbian artists and many who weren't really a part of it. And then this exhibition, The Butch is Here to Stay, which includes Dan DeGiulio and Ote Rüderstein, also a historic artist, but then mostly contemporary artists as Riz Kasenkamp, you see the photos here, Ella C. Bernhard, and Toni Schmale, Anne Schmidt, and this is a homage to female masculinities and a figure which is very unrecognized as well in art history and in our world today, but very influential also when you take a close look. And yes, so I just read a little bit about Dana. Dana lives and works in Brooklyn. She studied at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. In her practice, which spans painting, drawing, video, installation, writing, and teaching, she explores materiality beyond traditional representation and questions the aim of artistic means themselves. DeGiulio has held numerous solo and two-person exhibitions, including at the California Museum of Photography in California, Carrie Seacrest Gallery in Chicago, and PPOW Gallery in New York. And she is Associate Professor of Painting at RISD. Yes, I'm very... Okay. It's very nice, and I'm really looking forward to hear about some projects you've done, and also really next to your work, about your work, and then later we will ask some questions, and everyone is welcome to ask questions as well.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody, friends and strangers. I feel like the address is going to be a little bit wrong or a little bit loud, perpendicular to the environment as I find it. There's all this tension for me around representation and naming in general, belonging groups. but I didn't expect it to feel like kind of at home right now. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to yell for no reason. Not at you. I mean it to be honest. I want the work to be on the side of the people in this room, maybe more than anyone else I can think of. So I was going to say that which is a little bit embarrassing, but also true. Usually I'm not trying to establish it.
Okay, I just want you to look straight ahead at the wall and say candy, candy, candy.
Symbolic, right? There's no
To the search committee. Please accept our proposal for a future. Take my hand.
It is for you. It's my image. It's my image. It doesn't contain. It's just the surface of you, but
He's in the room with us. It's called Gladiator. It's acrylic on vinyl tile made for this show. Here it is in our basement in Cranston, Rhode Island, where I live now. These are repositionable vinyl tiles at Home Depot. It's imitation travertine marble. They're about $1.50 a piece. You can make one yourself. I wanted to acknowledge everybody else in the show. Obviously, I hesitated at first with Tarik and Lorenz to give the talk at all because there are other people here, and I didn't want to hop on that somehow or supply so much of the language in the room. But I wanted to say thanks to Ella and Risk and Atelier and Tony and Anne for the excellent company, to Tarik and Lorenz for keeping us all lit up in the present moment, and for being gracious interlocutors and hosts, really. To Femke for measuring the space down to the centimeter. I don't know if you're here, but you measured it down to the centimeter to fit in the door, so thank you, on WhatsApp. That was really epic. To Birgit for all of her work, and for all of our elders for being true. It's really nice to be in the third iteration of the show. It means a lot to me. I really struggled with not belonging in groups in general. And we were speaking earlier today, and I was like, I identify as an artist, but fuck it. But there are people, I'm a teacher too, and there are people for whom I needed to identify myself, consider myself marked, and I learned a lot from my students in having to show up with names, all the complexity and kind of entanglement of that. This is from the catalog portrait, which is lovely over there. This is an Almutadema painting of Heliogabalus, who drowned his enemies in flowers. This is outside of my house where Early and I lived in Bushwick for the last 11 years. This is a book that I made. I teach at RISD, which is in Providence, Rhode Island, where there was a school shooting yesterday at Brown, because it's the US. This is a book that I made called Curated for the Blind, that came out of my first trip to Berlin about 10 or 12 years ago. The page on the left says thoughts and prayers and 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 thoughts and prayers forever. All the ladies of Vermeer know it's Pompeii outside. None of the problems in the world or in their work are new. When there's text in this talk on a page like this, it's from this book. I just mean it to put it in the room with the work, I guess. The human Kleenex box, tits like a billboard, all night mouthing, erase me, all of it, no use for these stragglers, sick and sluggish, limping their armor back over the hill in regular light to assemble expertly into a name and drop like a roach onto the neck of another woman who gets up but not to go. Sympathy used otherwise only for the back of protest signs. Duct tape, yardstick, woman at window, light pencil grid, but the spacing was off, the glitter too much, all the things you wake up just to fear. Are any of these the worst days of the century? Yeah, that's the book that I made several years ago. No one asked me to do any of this. Nefertiti for the Blind is a real thing. You have it here in the Noise Museum. You can get your hands on it. If you twist about 125 degrees around, you can see the original behind bulletproof glass while touching the copy. It's a direct cast. As you can see, parts of her have been particularly loved. Here's the book in the wall. In Miami at this exhibition, my friend was curating a show and wanted to have the book in it, and I decided for it to be in the show, something had to happen to it, so we cut a hole in the gallery wall so you could read it without ever going inside, and people did. This is my studio in Bushwick where we lived for a long time. That's my setup. I painted flowers for about 12 years without stopping, just 6 white roses on their backs. The title of this painting is Augustine taps his sternum and says to God, this house is too small for you to enter, and even if it were large enough, it would be so dirty. It's a cup, it's still a cup. This is Mirandi's tabletop, if you're a painting fan. He traced the butts of all of his containers over time. There are angels flying around in 14th and 15th century painting, collecting Jesus' blood in these little cups. Without painting, I would just be flying around lamenting. I'm happy to have a container as complicated and fraught as it is. Daddy. These are really wonderful. They're always really small. If you can find them, please do. They're the best. I think it's so beautiful and strange. Also a painted drip. So there's always a terrible absurdity to these things that are enough to kind of twist me in half a little. Yeah, just a lamenter, all alone, nothing to do. I'm sorry that someone is bleeding, but it's nice to have something to collect it in. This is how I want my work to feel, like a shoe in the street, just one shoe. I think it's this one. The paintings look like this. It was nothing. It's a winter garden photograph, the one that's not pictured in Roland Barthes' Camera Lucida. It's detail. To say that you are helpless is to admit you might be helped, or at least that you remember your condition as having been otherwise a time before you were helpless. Starting from the infants, are you there, which issues from the same indignation required of all action. All cries are hopeful, and even after our skulls harden into speech, it is the same question. This whole helpless grid is a site of interdependency, and the saying of no, too, is optimistic because it posits things might be otherwise and opens a little fissure in the order of things like the pupil which lets light in. This is one of the most important objects. Nefertiti for the Blind is, but also this DeGiulio painting from 1920, 2 figures. Victor Hugo talks about this condition called the endotic, which is the opposite of the exotic. The exotic puts everything outside, it's an othering. The endotic puts everything inside. So instead of independence, it's interdependence. Instead of viscera and lungs and rib cages, there's bits of bone, shrapnel, architecture of things of the world. I wish with my heart that we learned things we almost learned in the pandemic. we like learned that if you breathe on someone wrong, you can kill them, and then we forgot. Really did. Great. Detail of other painting, lemons on a pewter plate, it's called. Those of course aren't lemons. Yeah, friends, people, important. Judy Garland painting, There's No Place Like Home. There's another Judy Garland painting called The Yard Inside. It was recent. We just moved after living in a place for a long time. Things kind of shook up, and I noticed whenever things get shaken up, I paint a lot of Judy Garland paintings. It's not the healthiest, just letting you know. It's like not on purpose. It just happened. This is a painting of Jesus on a potato chip. It's acrylic on chip. Something for the mouth. Something to believe in for the mouth. I was trying to keep things for a long time. And we all trying to like get back to whatever being a Butch is, whatever being a person is, whatever understanding subjectivity is kind of exposure, with or without your consent. Trying to keep things alive in painting is really hard. For a while I was building little bases in abstract paintings. Didn't work. It's a collage in the permanent altar. The dialectic in my work, if there is one, is between indoor and outdoor. Dialectic, when I think about Plato's Academy, I think about the guys sitting on the steps, trying to make the day longer. But what about this? But what about this? Like always finding the opposite. It's like a way to stay an artist, painter at least. Scherben has asked me to speak about a few specific works, so I'm doing it. Here they are. Here's one. You can see that, okay? Sometimes okay, right? Looks like an object. Rare things. This is called Ruinous Formal. It's like a 6-year piece. It's still kind of alive. It's a scale model of the Gigantomachy from the Pergamon altar in the Pergamon Museum here. It's from Asia Minor. It's in Turkey. It was stolen under 1886. It lives in Berlin in the museum. Materials are clay shellac enamel. It's on the wall, which is about 200 pieces of this thing. Little clay guys on the wall here, like a sentence. Here's the original, which many of you have seen, some of you maybe haven't. There's this frieze around the altar. It's the battle of the gods and the giants. Something with collages on. I'd never seen this in real life before I made it. I was just really moved by what's not there, by the sort of like by the exposure and the intensity and weather and ruin and crime and vandalism and what's been sort of like excised from the narrative, and then how fragile and sort of abject the pieces left are, not in theory but like in praxis. Like, what is it to see an arm-sized arm and have it ruined? Disability isn't a metaphor, loss isn't a metaphor, but black certainly is. It's fun to take it around the corner. So yeah, these like little hand-sized clay guys. Making part of a horse, kind of prefabricating something ruined was also really interesting, like not making a body and then hurting it, but only making the part of it that's there. Because I'd never seen it, I was like using the proto-internet to like find a map of like what's where, and like essentially the World Book Encyclopedia. The floor in the show too, making a piece for a room I've never been in. It's kind of interesting and important. I need something to happen in an exhibition always, like the work falls on the ground right now, and figures on the ground of what holds it. As a painter, it's really important for me to insist that like things don't automatically carry their own portable rectilinear context and architecture with them, but that they're subject to conditions, weather, light, economic, place, all. So here's a little detail of some of the little guys. Lots of little pieces. I was saying to Tarik a moment ago that like it's really nice to look back at this work because I don't think about it too much. It's there and I still have it and I love it around with me all over the world. Leave it, parts of it in various storage spaces, but having to kind of reckon with these older moves is important to me, especially here in this town. When I made this initially in 2010, I got to go to Berlin in 2012 and I brought it with me to meet the original. So here it is, meeting the original. And as a gift and tribute to Nefertiti, I cemented some to the wall outside of her museum, just as an offering. We went to go see the wall yesterday, and it's not there anymore. Surprise, it's gone. 13 years later, it's left. Oh, daylight, these like really banal daylight crimes. It's so funny to me. No one's stopping me. Everyone's like, good afternoon. Such a gift. Yeah, so there's that. I like to go in the snow. It's like snowy poops. Of course, things happen to it over time. This happened like a couple years later. I got it out of its boxes and tried to make it into language. It didn't quite work. or whatever. So things need to happen, you know, it's like this material, it's not a representation, it's not a photograph. Only by your measure do you understand truth. It's important to me. Only by your measure, this is another piece that I was asked to talk about. This is called The Squeaker from 2014. I had just moved to New York and I was like, what the fuck have I done? Do I fit? Can I leave? What is the container? So I made a piece for my suitcase. I made a copy of Rodin's Thinker because I was trying to think about how to get out of what I'd done. Here, his muscles are made out of foam and rubber chickens. So when you, kind of sad, right? So when you move him, he squeaks. I like this HDMI. So yeah, so the squeaker squeaks. She doesn't think, she squeaks. I wadded her up in my suitcase. The reason I don't talk about this piece anymore really is that I'm embarrassed because it was going to an exhibition in Wisconsin and I took it through TSA, this body in the suitcase, and I called a cab from Bushwick to take me to the airport, and the guy was like, you got a body in the suitcase? And I was like, yes. This is so stupid, you know, but I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So there it is on the weigh scale. There it is in Wisconsin, it made it, and TSA, the agents in the States, took off the head and pulled the chicken out of its chest to see what it was, and the reason I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, good job, Dana, show it like this, and I was like, I probably really scared the shit out of somebody. And I realized that was like totally unfair. It was like a terrible summer, lots of like, you know, interstitial violence, the police and citizens, and I was like, yeah, there's like, people are talking about bodies and not people or individuals, and fuck this body, I'm upset about this, and I probably actually scared a Black American worker at TSA. You know, that's actually not what I meant at all, you know, but I think that like the perversity in general, the concept was interesting to me, but I think I kind of like made a mistake. I was asked recently, like, have you ever like done a little, the worst word anyone can say to me about my work is prank. And I like being like a little bit adjacent to that, or a little bit, like I'm interested in like the figure of the adolescent boy, like the teenager. But that got like a little too close. It got a little bit like a curdle, like it soured a little, it's actually fucked up. You know, and I was interested in like, oh yeah, there actually is some danger here, even though it's so kind of goofy, or like there's like this little laugh that kind of fizzles at the end. I don't know, I'm not gonna tell you how to feel, but like, that's what I was thinking at least. That's why I hesitated to talk about this one. There it is, an exhibition with this little head off. I put a Xerox copy of the Thinker in the suitcase, so when they opened it, they would like know it was something. Still, you know, still like a little bit neat, you know, like a little bit shitty, a little bit not where I want to be. But these things have to get tested, so this is how I learn. That's my grad studio in Chicago, learning. Quick peek, just to contextualize these other gestures that are about the container and are about the rectangle and context and gesture and movement and trace, I guess. At Field House in Chicago, this is gaff tape and a 30-minute sprint, messing with the rules a little bit. Three-figure drawing, Fire Island. It was a nude beach. This is what I mean by indoor-outdoor, is like taking these like absolutely rote, conventional, parochial, academic gestures around painting and drawing, taking them outside, that are totally absurd. The rule of this project was if you drew, you had to model. I know some of these people, I met some of these people in this photo this day. We are still friends, which is cool. This is the curator, an art historian, Evan Garza, who loved being a model. The other thing I was going to say is that like the charcoal we used, there's a place in between Cherry Grove and the Pines in Fire Island. The Pines is where like the hot, rich, white gay guys are, and Cherry Grove is where everybody else is. And there's a place called the Meat Rack in between, and it caught fire, so there was tons of charcoal. Sometimes you have too much training. You're like, ooh, charcoal. Sorry. I wanted to show this after Evan's butt, I guess. Yves Klein, Leap to the Void, 1860, which you know. But this is the real one, the initial documentary photograph, the thing that we know art historically or canonically is a composite. These are all his bros from judo class, like helping him out, which I love even more than everything than that, you know. And but that's the most important point. If I'm speaking to anybody, I know it's like a little bit earnest, and I mean it this way, like that no one wants anything alone, which is really true. And I think I mean that too about like lesbian and gay elders of mine that like have been true and not hidden, have been like models to me in absentia and secret for much longer than I was able to be public. So I like what that was. No one makes anything alone. This is my pit crew for another piece. Dear Liban Capriol and my friend Greg Bay giving me a hug. This is a painting called Our Bed. This painting called You Don't Have to Kill Your Darlings. Painting of Judy Garland. Double skull. Skull with apple frame. Little lamenting angel. Little lamenting angel. Little lamenting angel. I want to say that again about no one making anything alone. I've had such a pit crew in my life, and some people are here, like friends and former students, and it's like fucking lovely that like you occur to me so often in my head. It's like I just saw you. It's like really cool to have company. This is the other piece that I was asked to talk about, and I'm happy to, and it's hard. This is called DeGiulio with the Suburban. The act is important. This is a building. The Suburban was an artist-run gallery outside of Chicago, operated by artist Brad Killen and Michelle Grabner, who was my professor and former chair of painting and drawing at SAIC. She's my friend. She was also my graduate advisor. So here's the building. It was kind of like a hotshot, conceptual, international space. She showed Blue Twinings there, little things, even a tiny little space like that. Didn't matter the real estate or square footage. It was kind of the gesture and the sort of intellectual and philosophical endeavor of the project in the suburbs of Chicago. She asked me if I wanted to have a show in it, or if I wanted to show paintings, and I said no, I want to drive a car into it. So I drove a car into it as a painting gesture. The reason this photo is here is that Michelle and I are friends, and she was my teacher, and we had this kind of familial relationship in town, kind of. I think that there was a kind of casting on the stage of Chicago as a kind of teenage fuck-up son. And I don't think I like that, and I don't think she liked it either. There she is, helping me out, so it was collaborative. That's a really important thing. I think some people, when they see this, they're like, oh yeah, come to my space, fuck it up. It's like, no, I don't fuck things up. It's something else. And I think that like the image or representation of things getting fucked up, or disaster, or catastrophe, small scale, ordinary, Tuesday afternoon catastrophe, is really important to me. But it wasn't. Actually, we were speaking about this a lot on Zoom in preparation for the show. It takes a lot of planning and math even for something to look immediate for me. That's kind of about rehearsal in public too, and like the long vault or the long runway from the kind of like lonesome comfort of yourself to a thing that can like present space to the world. So for this piece, Michelle had given me a painting as a gift, one of her own paintings, and I sold it, and I bought this Buick. I sold it to her gallery in New York City without telling her, and I bought a car, and the morning of the opening, without an audience, also not a performance, like super early morning, 5:45 maybe. I drove it backwards into the gallery at 15 miles an hour, permanently disabling the structure and totaling the car. So the gesture kind of stayed put. The painting came home in this other form, her painting. The gesture kind of got stuck, stayed put, sort of like arrested on its way off of the surface. That's how I think about the instrument or the tool that is the car. So yeah, like the weird, like kind of formal mirroring of the gas cap inside the building. There's everybody at the opening, non-smokers smoking, no one looking at the car. You know, it's kind of a family affair, you know. I'm a materialist, like I care about what things are actually made of, not their names. And I wanted to see the structure stabilized. I wanted to shift, see what it was made of. This is what it's made of. Cinder blocks, they move, they scoot. Yeah, you can see the grid, right? So the space that had like all this conceptual kind of like cred and power and clout suddenly felt really fragile. Something that we all kind of hated locally, suddenly people were defending it. I don't think that violence necessarily makes visible, and I would never do this now, but it's something I was thinking about then, what it takes to make visible, whether or not visibility is a trap, what kind of trap. There's the end, it's like it lost a tooth. The best thing that happened, and this is the best way I can think about institutional critique, like I'm a professor, I work in an institution, like it was heartbreaking to me to notice that I wasn't a revolutionary, but in fact a reformer. Like I didn't like it. It's really suburban, it's really bourgeois actually. But I believe in institutions' capacity to like or at least in my own capacity, to squirm against the institution of where I work. Like, I think it's important to like have me teaching painting instead of some asshole who wants a naked lady in a wine bottle in the room. Like, but it's been an interesting dialectic and a set of questions and like a real tussle for a really long time. But the reason I'm saying that is the best thing that happened in this piece is that the building fell onto the car. It was sitting on its bumper. And we had to put 2x4s and other things inside of the building to hold it up so it didn't fall on people. But like that much damage just kind of like sat. And I was like, oh, that's actually how arguments work. That's how thinking works. That's how slow change like can sort of happen. Is that like there's a contingency, if not a codependence, between critique and the thing that holds it. Does that make sense? I don't mean to be too neat about it. I mean, this was like an accident. It was a desired outcome, but it was an accident. This is the Thinker outside the Cleveland Museum of Art in 1970. The leftist eco-terrorists, the Weather Underground blew it off its perch. It's just material, this Thinker, little cannonball. Frida Kahlo's chest opens to reveal the broken column of her spine, her body and face mapped everywhere by tiny nails, the cast shadows that would stay there even if you came and pulled the nails out. She used her hospital gown as a smock, hitting flat on her back in bed, wiping the excess from her brushes onto her tits. Artist's love are holes. In the morning, the campus smells like shampoo. If you feel addressed, you are. If you feel caught, you are. If that which is after you is big, go somewhere it can't fit. If it is small, you have to keep moving so it doesn't slip inside you. You have to frighten it and hope it forgets you. Darling, darling, I don't know what partita is. These are the pieces. In Michelle's retrospective a couple of years ago, I showed the pieces of the car and the building together. This is how they are together. There's everybody. There's the windshield on the car. Here's everybody okay so far? I'm gonna go for a little bit more. It's okay. Thank you for the nod. I've relied on it for many years. This is the window outside of PPOW in New York, where I had a show a couple of years ago. There it is. It's a big painting show, 80 paintings. It's little flower paintings, but in order to do the show, it's like excellent commercial space, but commercial nonetheless, and I wanted to do something to the window, so they're like retail Broadway, it's like literally Broadway, Tribeca, to their retail window, and this is a combination of tempera paint and Vaseline and Dawn dish soap, kind of coating the window. They put on with my hands, just like these sort of gestures. There's their clean window, there's what it looked like, of course, the exhibition. Troubling, or like addressing at least the inside and the outside, was important, and ended up making a kind of nice little like weirdly monastic container of their retail shop window. So that was kind of nice, little like holding space. People could drag their fingers through it, so it stayed soft and wet the whole time. There was lots of drawing. I checked on it a lot because I was super afraid like people would write shitty things in it, but no one did, which is cool. Good job, New York. This is my first and best ever painting teacher, the one who taught me how to look down. She was Geichman, still in Chicago. She came to the opening to surprise me. She was my substitute parent. Some marks accrued by other people, not just me, over the course of the show. I love sitting on the inside and kind of watching this, like the impressionism happen in real time. The three paintings on the inside are called "The World is a Crying Baby." Oh yeah, this is called "Honey, I Was Born to Be Tamed," something I think about. Whether or not that's real. And "The World is a Crying Baby." That's my dad in the middle, so that's the gender world that I'm coming from. That's the class and gender world that I'm coming from. Some jokes. This is called "Just a Smile." Yeah, we're doing great. Quickly moving through, this is a big, dumb, brutalist building in Connecticut that houses Wesleyan University. Brutalist architecture, limestone. As I said, a painting show in it. The show's called Live or Die. These are some paintings I made for the space, and there's a bra on the floor. So I'm showing this now. Big, dumb building. Lots of little days. How the days stand up. Big, dumb building. Which is actually quite soft. I made the black wall with some like gray tests to like see if they could float. Some are cement, some are sky. This piece is called Wet Fur Froze. It's another treatment of the window. There's the bra. It says, "Amber, will you marry me?" And the glass, it's about 2 stories up, so that would be impossible for a person. And the glue residue revealed the previous Lawrence Wiener that was still there from an exhibition like 6 years prior. I was like, ah, yes, Lawrence. Inconsolable Lawrence. And it was cute because I showed this piece somewhere. I was teaching at Columbia University, and I showed this piece. a student kind of like yelped out in the audience like, "Oh, it's so sweet! You asked your wife to marry you in an artwork?" And I was like, "No, Amber's time." Amber's time. This is someone wrapping a painting next to the bra on the floor. For this show, I had a public deinstall because I find deinstall super melancholic and sad. So here are a bunch of strangers after COVID helping me get the work done. It was really, really, really awesome. The school provided all the bubble wrap and stuff. It was great. People were smiling. Strangers asked to have their pictures taken with their favorites, which is a recommendation I have for all of you. Like, I don't know this person. I mean, now I do, but like, I did that. Can I hold it? Yeah, man. It's just a piece of masonite. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome. I'm trying to get the help part, the together part going, because there's so much inside of the required intensity and kind of estrangement and relative loneliness. There's such a gulf between doing something necessary alone and how it meets the world, enters the field of the social. I've been trying to figure out how to get the work that feels so kind of anguish on its own to enter the field in a way that doesn't need to defend. So that will risk getting touched. We should leave them to the wall. I'm trying this too because this is the feeling that I want, I think, from all of my work. It's the shoe in the street and it's this, something not over yet. That's just that, the last move of deinstall. It's my friend throwing a bra around. Live or Die is named after an Anne Sexton poetry book from the 60s. The epigraph is from Saul Bellow, and it's don't cry, you idiot, live or die, but don't poison everything. Almost done. This is a piece called Floor. It's little grade school stars on the roof of this apartment gallery that I was showing with Hunter Foster last year in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. I made the constellations. So there's that. I think that once I said that I feel like my work is about not being able to learn, kind of defying the terms of learning and also being totally unable to learn. I like the idea of stealing stars for a bedroom, but accidentally on the roof. This is a painting I made with my friend on office supplies. Here are two former graduate students of mine moving my office around, my adjunct office. It was in a show. It says I'm fine here. This is a self-portrait in a hole in Italy. It was left there by my friend who ran the show. I think she left it. I don't know where it is now. Maybe it's still there. This is New York. This is a talk that I gave where I heard myself saying that. That's true. Truer words. And then this is the end of the talk. This is the pieces in the room with us. I've been wanting to make this floor for a while. This felt like the time to do it. I got a measurement wrong in my head and we had to Tetris it on the phone, and it was great. Happened to send 3 spares, so we made it happen, and it worked. It's really makes me happy. They are in fact paintings, paintings for your feet, I guess. So these are some visuals. Yeah, paintings for your feet. That's this morning. Thank you for doing such a beautiful job installing it. Control, thinking, and care, and Birgit for support and strength and all of it. It's cool. Someone in front of us on the plane here was watching Gladiator. I want to talk about, I can talk about Gladiator for a long time, or what that word is and what that means. It was a job. But my friend asked me, why is it called this? And I was like, well, it's the looking down a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what fall on things. So, thanks. Thank you for your patience. We made it to the conversation part. Feel free to ask these people about they're curating all these lesbian shows for some reason. They're right here. Ask them whatever you want. Guess we'll leave it up, Russell. Thanks for your time.
Maybe just since we are already at Gladiator, maybe just there is this connection to a real piece, or a piece that has been done before that this piece kind of refers a little bit to, and I kind of felt that maybe it's interesting to go a little bit into that. What that means and why that reference matters to maybe bring this work to life.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I should show them too. This piece has an antecedent. This is a citation, if not a picture of the other piece. I'll try to show you in a moment when my computer works again. But not a disgraced, but like a collapsing tuna magnate in Sicily in the 1890s had a very romantic floor made for his wife. And like the Bergman altar, I have never seen that. But I wanted to, I don't know, I think that, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't do that. I don't really need to do all this, but I don't need to show you. Imagine a floor. I think it's in this. This is like the document that I sent everybody here to understand what I was doing in the basement, making this thing in the basement. Anyway, this is the original, this is the tuna magnets floor. There's ceramic tiles. I just feel like it's so, isn't that great? Wow. Who doesn't want to go, just, I don't know, sit on that or like drop a piece of egg salad on that and just like see. Yeah, it's so rad and like absolutely lugubrious. You know, I really love it. Yeah, so he was just great. So we lost this palazzo and it's still there. It's called the Palazzo Florio. Someday I'll go and meet the original. It's just bananas. What a thing to do. Because they're everywhere. You know, it isn't just like there's something about this surplus, kind of choking on the surplus a little bit, which felt to me like this entertainment. Like, there's just too, you get mawkish with too much love. In order to do it, I had to like actually do it because I'm a literalist and a still life painter. So I had to make a zillion fake petals and drop them. Yeah, and then paint them. It's over there. So yeah, yeah, that's what they look like. Yeah. Anyway, and here they are. They went in the mail, and these people beautifully cut them for me because I had pretty much the dimensions, but not really. Yeah. So travel advertisement for Sicily.
And I think maybe also this kind of also encapsulates like two things that seem to be very important in the work. Like one is ruins, and the person kind of transformed through time, and then the container. And I think maybe it makes sense if you can go a little bit into what these two words mean in your work or for you, and why they have this kind of recurring importance.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for asking. I think that ruin is such a tricky word that I want to like play with and trouble because I mean it to connote the encounter with things as they are, not as how I wish they were or how they used to be. And it's about the material conditions of the actual thing, not the ideal form, not the representation, not its name, but the kind of like surprise and sometimes disappointment of like the real, of the palpable. And I think that Bergman altar in particular, and also like the tremendous like loss of like walking through the Western Museological Project, understanding it's the byproduct of enormous violence and being like, oh, the violence is actually everywhere. There is a cabinet of headless white women. There are holes in torsos made for the insertion of real arrows and sometimes real feathers. Like there are garments with like holes in them from like lethal injuries. You know, it's like, okay, like this is what we're doing. And I feel like being an artist, this historical moment with that kind of necessary recognition of the terms under which things mean. I think thinking about what it actually is. It's like, what the fuck are we all doing at this museum looking at these like people who've had their faces chiseled off? Like it feels palpably like the world to me. And I think that the goal for the distance between the larger civility, at least in the States, and like contemporary art is so striking to me because it feels just like the world. Things falling apart, things in vitrines that are like dusty as hell, you know, like, I don't know. I feel like there's a understanding sympathetically what holes are, what like holes in uncertainties in particular. And I feel like, you know, I made the piece with the car in the Obama administration. Like, and we're feeling pretty lethal. Like things are fine, relatively, not of course, neoliberal project, but like fine enough. You know, I can't imagine like scaring people like that. No. You know, and I think like what of this, what on the ground meaning is shared is really important. Like, does this feel ruined? And I feel like there's a frankness among people not overtrained in art, in kids, in people new to anything, that is really, really essential. Just like, what honest appraisal is this? Why are we looking at all of these harmless sculptures? Like, what is it about? Is it an abstraction? Is it a poem? Where things are activated by the force of what's not there? What and the explicit frankness of this kind of like beguiling and persistent injury is like so important to make meaning. I understand Wunderheimer, I understand white supremacy, and I feel like watching those sculptures and everything. It's just like, this is the field that I chose it and I'm interested in it. And the squirm that it produces as a kind of shared inheritance. Like when I was teaching 10 years ago at the University of Tennessee, a graduate student said to me that I was their first lady teacher. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, whatever. It's like, I think that like, whose bodies get to do this? And like, I'm suspicious of like the death of the author occurring at the same time with the integration of the institution. No more authors now, because like now everybody's here. I think like whose tools and what hands is like really important. Yeah, so ruin is like, it's not ironic, it's not a joke, but it's like a zone to like twist around it. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I think the container too is like what, that's a Marxist feminism. What is holding this? Like what is holding this up? What's keeping the walls white? Like what structures have we, whatever, leave the we out of it, but like what structures does one have to like swallow and understand their implicity in if they want the train to move a fucking little bit? You know? I don't know, trying to like stay at zero. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just being super personal. This is what it's like for me. Say what it's like for you. Anyone please do.
I really just in addition also to that, like, because I also got this impression that the container maybe also has this body quality. Like there is like, so like there's the structure, the external structure that it moves, but it's also like in the DeGiulio painting, but it's also the internal structure that kind of holds something. And I think that's something which I think your work is very particular about, to really deal with that kind of angle. Maybe.
No, thanks. I want that to be true. You know, I mean, I feel like the container of one skull felt like a shared skullness, like all the skulls that were in lots of kind of the same container. But yeah, I was thinking about this thing, I was like, how do I say this? I thought so much about this show, not used to figuring on the ground like this, and like, what is it? Like, am I Butch enough? What is this? But Dorothy Ellison, the American writer, has this book called Skin. I think it's in Skin. She has a book of stories called Trash and essays called Skin. And in Skin, she tells the story of she has like a new butch lover with really effective dildos. This is great for me. And her gal goes to work one day and leaves Dorothy at home, and Dorothy like starts to search for these dildos. She's like, where are they? I have to see these magical objects. And she finds them. She finds one shoved between the mattress and the box spring, another in the cushions of the couch, one in the kitchen drawer. And they're like the ugliest objects ever. They're like a metal spike wrapped in super soft leather, and the leather has been conditioned with use inside of people's bodies. And her lover comes home and she's like appalled, furious that these things have been seen. They're not supposed to be seen, they're supposed to be used, they're supposed to be felt. I think it's like, they look like the Venus of Willendorf, you know, in my head or something. I'm like, what are these objects? I think about them every other day, about visibility and like what it is to like haul something into the sun that like maybe should just be felt or something. Does that make sense? Like I think I'm wondering what kind of consistent performance of the shell or the surface of everyone's container I can put on to like stay in the world. what's happening behind something, what's happening in transactions when we go to meet the social in this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a very nice. It's a very nice maybe like also idea of how you work on painting, which is so much about the viewing, the representation, and then kind of trying to address that, but also working against that, maybe trying to focus on something different.
No, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I want the image to be in trouble. You know, like it's in trouble. Like I think that like I don't want it to be so packed that like materiality always wins, like it always collapses. But I think that like I want the strain to be there, even if it's like a comic strain. You know, I'm totally fine with like I always like learn where I am, like where the laughs fall.
Yeah.
You know.
Connected to this, I mean, maybe there's two questions, but you can answer what you want. I like everything in your work always has so much directly to do with you. I think, like you said to us, like that you when you came here, then you said like that when you paint like flowers because you like things when they die, and but then you also said that when the flower dies too fast that you can paint, then you're actually too slow, then you just leave it. But I was with this I was wondering, because it's sometimes like that you're interested in the trees, but then also how you hang your paintings, the flower paintings, always so close into a line, and what interests you with the trees, and is it also connected to something you feel for yourself?
No, I mean, I feel like this is like way binary and probably unnecessary, but I always feel like secretly painters either work with space or they work with time. And I feel like I'm like a working with time painter, or I'm like using it that way, which is why moving image is like, okay, unfolding or sequentially. And I feel like the passage, like reading from, you know, walking along the frieze and like permitting the narrative to unfold. I remember some people go this way, you know, they're going as though they can't go back, you know. And I think that flower painting as genre is so hilarious because it holds time implicitly exactly like a gesture does. You know, it's spatio-temporal. Like it's like when I'm painting too slow for the light, it's dead. I have to like do it, but I think that like me as a body and this thing as a body have to like contend with each other, and like all the coordinates of perception and habit and repetition and stuff like that. So I appreciate that question. That's really nice. I think that hanging the paintings in a row too is like, what if you saw all the Tuesdays at once? You know, what if the calendar had to like stretch out in this kind of like almost like annoying way? You know, I think that when I showed them last, the gallerist was like, why are they so close? You know, it's like I want the periphery to be like irritated. That like there is something else. There is a before and after, like always. Until there isn't, I guess. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like the reason, like for genre and cliche and everything else, and super shit, like teenagers and cliches pointing out the kind of room you're in too. It's like they circulate like really beautifully. Like they're not quite about the user, they're about the receipt. And like in an emergency, a cliche will do.
And maybe also because that was maybe something you just kind of mentioned briefly that. And I can't really find this question right now on my phone again, but I think that at some point you also said that like this working, that you kind of needed to work through it, and that like, this kind of maybe like a certain idea of exhaustion, or like this kind of I would say the physical labor part of the work has this also a very significant role in the work. I'm not quite sure because like now I can't really find that.
Well, that's something amazing about this show though. There's like so much physical exertion in the show. Video in the bathroom, it's a great video in the bathroom. This piece, like over time, the hauling around this rubber, you know, it's like there's lots of like kind of dumb strength, you know, to it all. And I think that like it's exciting to me to have elegant thinking underneath some really brute action.
Maybe also connected to this one question, like you did this really legendary art space in Chicago, you co-founded it, Julius Caesar, and I also like connected to this whole project, and so like I was wondering like what do you think, like what is this role of the project or an artist-run project space, like what it can do, for example, also to kind of connect like for example like the realities that there is, you know, in like a kind of hole inside of the art history, but it's not really, you know, a project space for artists, and it's maybe has the same kind of people who are coming there and so on. It's kind of limited the way how it can really like change something in the bigger picture. And I was just curious what you think, because your work's also so all the time kind of I think quite it really, so a lot of many projects, and you did so many activism inside of your own work, that I was curious about what you think of this.
No, thanks. Julia Caesar was a project space that my friends and I started in 2008 after we were in graduate school in Chicago. I just say their names. Peter Sunquist, Colby Shaft, Mazak Marpartan, DeGiulio, Annie Anderson. It was really cool to do. We needed to I hope it's obvious, I haven't said this word, but like I'm interested in power. I'm interested in it as though that were possible, as though it were like a television show. And a critique of power. I feel like having an artist-run space was a way to get meaning, not finally, but like consistently local and embodied. Like this is happening for the people that are there, and like the photographic record is sloppy and almost absent, and it's just like, what was this? What is this? And I think it's like, I don't think I've said that word love out loud like 3 times. Sometimes I think that love is the opposite of hope. You know, it's just like, can we like do something negative and optimistic that's like that like you know that like things that like if you're like no, that means things can be otherwise. If you're like no to this, I'm not gonna like fight in a closed basement with like for limited resources with people that I love. It's ridiculous. You know, it's like how do we do this and like get it to a spot where it has meaning for the first 7 people who were at the first year of shows, and then eventually the like 60 people who started to come, and our wise neighbors who understood that we had hours on Sunday and would send their toddlers down to get free babysitting for all the dumb white kids hanging out there and walk. It was awesome. You know, like we're doing something. And I think that like maybe it's just to like as another like deployment of surplus, another kind of like expenditure. Like we're doing something. Instead of waiting. Like I have grad students now, and I'm like, don't wait, stop waiting. You can't wait. Like waiting for food. You eat the person you're waiting for. Don't wait for them. Like I didn't mean it like as anything transactional. I didn't mean it to extend beyond what it was. It's like very lovely to me that you guys know about it. It's not for extraction or use. It doesn't become currency. It's just like a thing to do, especially if you understand the larger thing. It's not just bogus, but like wow. I don't know. I mean, was it all bad? Like, I don't know, like, was it fun? Yeah. Like, did we, like, accidentally, like, drop some wall paint on the face of a Thomas Lawson painting? Absolutely we did. And we had to call him on the phone and be like, that's an $80,000 object. It's like birdshot. We're sorry, I think. I don't know. There's, like, a lot to say about that. But I think, like, I've stopped talking right now, but, like, that's the one, besides public install, the people wrapping my paintings, that's like the one thing that I'm unequivocally proud of, because we like did it together, and it's cool, and I don't know, and it was really fractious. There was lots of argument. It wasn't like, let's just be cuddly. It was like, fuck you, I've never talked to a dumber person ever. We're showing this orange painting, not that one. You know, it's like, but having to like confabulate your own mistakes for things. Mistakes is a messy word, but it's also like, if it doesn't mean anything to you, it's not gonna go beyond. Like there's, that's good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird patience.
I think I ran out of questions. I don't know if someone else from the audience has stage.
Whatever you guys are comfortable with. I appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah, and then I think, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody. Yeah. Thanks everybody. Wow.